on reporting. We are doing much more both on the communication progress on the SDG Action Manager, but not least on science-based targets. There will be increasingly more and more activities for all of you. And of course, we are the topics of today is the COP, the communication of progress, and also learnings about the SDG Action Manager tool. If you haven't heard about it, you will get some more insight to it. We are especially pleased that there are so many joining us today. As members, all of us, I think, we need to respect the 2 pillars of the UN Global Compact, both the 10 principles on responsible companies, but at the same time looking at all the business opportunities that are related to the SDGs, to the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, whatever level your company is on at the moment, there's always a possibility for improvement. So I'm very much happy that we have so great companies that are doing a lot of reporting, but as pleased we are to have new members on board that are just at the start of their reporting or SDG journey, so to speak. Today we are looking forward to hearing from Bernhard Frey. He's UN Global Compact Senior Manager of SDG Impact and Reporting. And this is exactly what we are discussing these days, right? How do we ensure that reporting also create change? How do we make sure that we create impact, not only by via reporting, but also strategic work in the company? So we will also get an idea of how the format of the reporting of the UN Global Compact is being adapted, and look ahead into the time to come in the UN Global Compact. We will also meet from one of our members, Anette Brøto Nereng from Yara, will share about their process on creating their annual sustainability report. And finally, of course, we are very pleased to have Moramay Navarro with us as well. She's the UN Global Compact Manager of Strategic Development, and she will get more into the SDG Action Manager tool. And as you know, this is, or perhaps you don't know it yet, but now you know it, that it's of course created to make it easier for companies. Where should you start with? What sort of goals should you start with? How do you set down activities? How do you put deadlines for yourself? A very handy tool when you're doing your communication on of progress report. So that was all from me, and I'm really looking forward to listening to all the speakers and get all the great questions from you in the audience. And I just hand it back to you now, Alice, to take us through our 2 speakers from HQ and of course from Yara. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kim. Yes, we're really looking forward to hearing the events today. So our first session is going to be on the challenges and recommendations for sustainability reporting, along with an update on the communication on progress review, because we're going to have an update to this format. So we're going to hear from Bernhard Frey, who is Senior Manager on SDG Impact Reporting at the United Nations Global Compact Office, where he led the work on the action platform reporting on the SDGs, and he supports the organization's review of the communication on progress. Previously, he was manager for the environment and climate at UN Global Compact and the Secretariat of Caring for Climate. And before joining the UN, Mr. Frey worked for several years with GIZ, German International Cooperation, as an advisor on environmental policy. So I think it will be really helpful for everyone who's working with sustainability reporting and the communication on progress to hear Bernhard's input on this format and the update. So we'll give it to you now, Bernhard. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much to the local network Norway for inviting me to this meeting. And good afternoon, everybody. Let's briefly see the agenda of my presentation. Next slide, please. I briefly want to give you with an overview of the value of producing a communication on progress. Briefly touch base upon the challenges and opportunities connected to sustainability reporting and doing a COP. And also provide you with an overview on where we stand in the review of the COP. As Alison mentioned, we are currently in the process of enhancing our communication on progress. Next slide, please. And next slide. So very briefly, I won't go into the details of the requirements of the current COP, but just as an overall recap of what is actually a COP, right? So our communication on progress, as you all know, is our Global Compact's main accountability and transparency framework. It's basically the annual expression of our signatories on how they are upholding the 10 principles. In that sense, and overall, the COP is a visible expression of a company's commitment to sustainability. And for many small and medium enterprises, it may actually be the only sustainability report they produce.
Global Compact. Nei, vet du hva, jeg tar og exiter møtet, for jeg ser at den tatt opp, og jeg påmeldt, og da får jeg den etterpå.
Sorry, can we just ask everyone to mute?
The COP details a company's work to embed the 10 principles into its strategies and operations, as well as the efforts that company puts to support societal priorities. It is a key integrity tool for the UN Global Compact. As you know, companies that fail to report or to meet the reporting requirements over time will be delisted from the initiative. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits of doing a COP and of sustainability reporting overall? It's very much connected, or they can be seen almost as the same. So sustainability reporting, and particularly doing a COP, will help your business explain how your operations and products are aligned with the 10 principles, and how those operations and products contribute to the SDGs. And overall, as I mentioned, how your business is upholding its commitment to the UN Global Compact. The reporting process within a company, including the preparation of the COP, will help your sustainable decision-making processes. It's a management tool also. Among others, the reporting process should help your business identify risks that emanate from your business, particularly risk on people and the environment, and demonstrate how your business mitigates and addresses those risks. Both by identifying ways to mitigate negative impacts to society, as well as by identifying beneficial products and services that can contribute to advancing the 10 principles and the SDGs, your company can drive value creation and showcase how it leverages opportunities connected to sustainability. Last but not least, there's also, as you know, an increasing demand for sustainability data from a variety of stakeholders like investors, governments, civil society, etc. Sustainability reporting and the COP will help you meet those information demand and increase trust. Overall, the objectives of the COP are connected to these points, and they will also remain the same. They are like, the objectives are fostering transparency, accountability, integrity. The objectives are to help you demonstrate your company's commitment to the 10 principles, and also promote continuous learning and performance. As mentioned, the COP and sustainability reporting is also a management tools. These objectives are still valid for the new COP that we are building, and that I will speak about in a few minutes. Next slide, please. And next slide. So what are a few of the challenges and opportunities connected to sustainability reporting and the COP? And I'm sure we will hear about this also later by our signatory. Some of the challenges related to producing a COP that is valuable to stakeholders are the same that related to producing a sound sustainability report. Let me mention some of them from my perspective. One challenge is connected to greenwashing and cherry picking, mostly due to a strong desire by the business to show mostly positive contribution, and that can lead also to not having a balanced report. Cherry picking means selecting issues based on what is easiest for the company to report on, rather than what accounts for the highest priority. For example, a company that produces solar panel may be tempted to only report on how they are contributing through their products to greenhouse gas emission reductions, but may omit the reporting on negative impacts, maybe on labor or other environmental issues. Greenwashing means reporting on positive contributions only. It is important that businesses disclose on their most significant negative impacts on people and the planet and how they are addressing those negative impacts. So understanding the challenges for a business of disclosing negative impact and negative information, a report needs to be balanced. And it is important from a principle-based perspective and from the perspective of the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact that these negative impacts are addressed. Another challenge relates to the lack of harmonization and consistency in the use of sustainability reporting standards. This makes comparability of a company's performance over a period of time and also among companies difficult. Another challenge relates to the difficulty of measuring actual impact on the 10 principles and the SDGs, beyond just measuring activities and outputs and just disclosing about activities and outputs. So how to measure that your business is, and disclose that your business is making significant contributions to the SDGs, for instance, beyond just incremental improvement in its sustainability performance. Business can achieve broader transformation if, when setting sustainability goals, they consider planetary boundaries and other social, environmental thresholds. For example, setting science-based targets on climate change is a good example of the type of goals that can drive impact and change and can help companies measure and disclose beyond activities and outputs, but also impacts. Another challenge related to sustainability reporting and producing a COP relates to the assurance of data. Overall, sustainability data and data related to SDG disclosures, for example, are often not third-party verified. So there is always a question about how accurate or reliable that data is. Finally, if data cannot easily be accessed and collected by stakeholders, analysis of corporate sustainability information by stakeholders can be hindered. So the way business disclose information beyond just the PDF format maybe is very important. So business can also consider making the spreadsheets with the rough data accessible, or creating interactive web pages and using different types of format to convey that sustainability data. Next slide, please. Let me just mention a few elements on how you can improve your sustainability reporting and your COP. It is important in a sustainability communication that the company clearly describes what the sustainability priorities are and how the company has identified that set of sustainability priorities. In this context, from our perspective, it is important to use a materiality approach that includes reporting on the most significant impacts on people and the planet. And that is not only focused on disclosing how ESG issues impact the business and business value creation, but also how business impacts people and the planet. That has to be at the very center from UN Global Compact's perspective. I mentioned goal setting. It is very relevant for your company as a management tool and for your stakeholders to know what type of goals you are setting to improve. So in the report, it is helpful to set and describe, measure, and time-bound sustainability goals. And as mentioned, these sustainability goals obviously should be ambitious, and understanding the challenges for many companies, one of the ways to produce ambitious sustainability goals is to align them with science and also make them context-based. Science-based targets is an important methodology to align, for example, your climate goals and make them ambitious. But you can also consider on the social space, social and societal norms like the SDGs, in order to set ambitious sustainability goals. Another way to improve your reporting is to describe how your sustainability goals and also the SDGs are connected to your business strategy. Disclosures in a sustainability report should be a true reflection of the significant impacts that are prioritized internally within your company and that shape how senior management defines company strategy and allocates resources. Another way, obviously, to improve your COP and sustainability reporting is using established reporting frameworks and standards, sustainability frameworks and standards. Stakeholder engagement is also very important. You can engage relevant stakeholders throughout the whole reporting process. And this includes also the process to identify your most material issues. And finally, I already mentioned as a challenge, the relevance of verifying your data or part of your data, understanding that this also is related to costs and that for smaller companies, this may be more difficult to do. But obviously, third-party verification always increases the value and quality of your report. Next slide, please. This is just to briefly mention, in case you have not seen them, that we, as part of the action platform reporting on the SDGs, the UN Global Compact and GRI, with input from partners and stakeholders, have produced 3 connected guides to help business measure and disclose their contribution to the SDGs. I encourage you to start having a look, particularly at the practical guide, which contains 3 practical steps to integrate the SDGs into your reporting process and contains helpful recommendations that overall will support your sustainability reporting beyond just SDG reporting. So please have a look at these guides, and I'm happy to provide more information about them. Next slide, please. Let me briefly touch base on the ongoing review of the COP. As you know, we are in the process of reviewing our reporting on our reporting framework in order to enhance it. And why are we doing so? There are several reasons, but just to mention a few connected to the goals also of the COP. But the review of the COP provides us now with the opportunity to fulfill the mandate from the UN system that has asked us to increase UN Global Compact accountability. So strengthening our integrity and strengthening business accountability. By doing so, we will also strengthen our brand. So making sure that the COP is a more effective tool to actually assess if our businesses are making true efforts to uphold the 10 principles of the Global Compact that will also strengthen our brand. The review of the COP is providing us with the opportunity also to help business better operationalize the 10 principles and help drive corporate sustainability performance. So many businesses that join the Global Compact are also looking for guidance, what it means in implementing those principles. And obviously, we do a lot of great content work related to our different issue areas. But the COP is a central tool that can provide more guide through the type of questions we are developing. And another reason why we are enhancing and reviewing our COP relates us to the way we are able to aggregate and compare data. Right now, this is very difficult for the Global Compact Office to do, as we receive the information mostly in PDFs, and our systems cannot systematically mine and aggregate that data for systematic analysis. So the COP can help us to collect and make that data from our signatories accessible, and therefore also help us to respond to the growing stakeholder demand for sustainability data that I was mentioned before. Next slide, please. What are some of the expected changes in the new COP? And again, this is still work in progress. We have done, I will talk about briefly about the process where we stand. And so this is ongoing work, and no changes have been formally adopted yet. However, we have identified and are working on some changes that we expect to introduce in the new COP, and some of them are outlined here. First, at the heart of the new COP will be sustainability data inputted directly by our business signatory into the IT interface in the form of a questionnaire. So a new enhanced questionnaire that business will have to fill in will be at the center of the new COP. By inputting relevant data, not in a PDF, but through the questionnaire, and that will allow us also to easy access, aggregate, compare, and also visualize that data. The new COP questionnaire will include granular questions on the 10 principles as well as on the SDGs. These questions will mostly be optional, and they are building on existing standards, frameworks, and initiatives such as GRI or the SDG Action Manager also. So right now, we have produced a draft questionnaire, which is still very long, that covers questions on all the 10 principles. So questions on human rights, on labor, and on environmental topics. We have produced about 400 questions that we are now consolidating, and understanding that this is very extensive and very long. We are now defining which questions could be optional, again, a very tiny fractions, and also identifying ways to further consolidate and shorten this draft COP questionnaire that we have established. The topics of that questionnaire are mostly drawn from our 10 principles and the SDGs. So questions on human rights, on labor, on sustainability governance, and then on environmental issues that are taken mostly from the SDGs and also frameworks like the planetary boundaries. The new COP is also expected to include a set of minimum required actions that companies are expected to fulfill. These could be, for example, setting certain policies on human rights, etc. So this will be very basic actions that are achievable for all businesses, of course, including SMEs, within a reasonable time frame. But at the same time, will show what is the floor of participation at the Global Compact. And that again will increase UN Global Compact's integrity and also strengthen business accountability. So these are some actions that we want to identify that show what is the bare minimum that a signatory to the UN Global Compact needs to do in order to communicate honest efforts to uphold the 10 principles. Another possible change, again, to be confirmed, relates to the due date. We are exploring the possibility of having a universal due date ranging from March to May, where businesses would be requested to input their sustainability data or their COP data into the system. This is aligned with what other reporting frameworks or other initiatives have, having a universal due date. I mentioned the importance of making data easily accessible and transparent to stakeholders. This has always been a goal of the COP. And we will make that comparable data from the COP questionnaire available in an open database that will better help inform stakeholder decision-making, like governments, UN agencies, civil society, and investors. This will be something unique. It will be a database with relevant information on sustainability on the 10 principles on the SDGs, accessible to all, and provide a huge value and also strengthen UN Global Compact's value proposition. Another improvement that we plan to implement in the new COP relates to goal setting. So through the questions that the signatories will find in the new enhanced questionnaire, they can be identified as sustainability goals that a company can set in order to improve in its performance over time on a voluntary basis, obviously. Finally, connected to that, it's very important that we revamp our support services for participants. So together with the local network secretariats, we will work on the type of services our signatories need to implement the new COP requirements, particularly smaller companies. We expect large companies will have a lot of the data that we will request already, that we will request in our COP questionnaire, but we will work on tutorials, webinars, guidance, particularly for SMEs that will help them, help you implement the new COP requirements. So next slide, please. Actually, many of these points, how the new COP will contribute to the new strategy of the UN Global Compact and to the value proposition, are related to the slides that I have mentioned before. So I think the organizers will distribute these slides later, so you will see that here. But maybe we can skip this slide now, as I've mentioned also already most of the points. Let me now briefly provide you with an overview of where we stand in the review process, and I believe this is my final slide. So we embarked in early 2020 in a consultation process with relevant stakeholders that included also both the local network secretariats as well as all our signatories. We invited the secretariats to connect us with the signatories, to organize calls across the globe, also with other relevant partners, to discuss ways how the COP could be enhanced. At the same time, supported by a sustainability accounting expert, we did a research of existing sustainability reporting frameworks and overall corporate sustainability initiatives, and created a database of almost 5,000 KPIs of existing sustainability reporting standards. This built the research and the basis for the changes that we are implementing. Based on this research and the database, we drafted a first draft version of the COP questionnaire, the V1, the version 1, that we shared this March with around 70 selected experts and partner organizations, as well as the local network secretariats for their first input on the COP questionnaire. We are currently in the process of assessing all input received and will prepare a revised version, a V2, of the questionnaire to be shared in an additional round of consultations in June. This consultation in June will be open to all Global Compact signatories. So the V2 is expected to be published in June for your comments. We will integrate that feedback, and our plan, this is work in progress again, is to announce the COP questionnaire, the new set of questions, in September. In parallel, we are working on the IT developments that needs to be done that are needed for a new COP system. This includes the IT interface, the database, everything. After announcing the COP, we also plan the questionnaire. We also plan to have a beta testing phase that will test both, right? The new questionnaire in combination with the IT system. We plan to have a beta testing at the end of this year, so that we are ready to launch the new COP system in early 2022, so coming year. This timeline is subject to change, and it's also important to know that we will provide adequate transition time and period to allow all our signatories to adjust to the new reporting requirements. So even if we are launching the new COP system early 2022, it is likely that the actual request to report on the new COP system will start in 2023, particularly if we have that universal due date as mentioned before. And so while companies will have enough time to see what are the new requirements and prepare for that, and see also the database, the actual implementation, mandatory implementation of the COP is likely to happen in 2023. So with that, I'm gonna leave it here and happy later to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bernhard. I think it was really helpful for everyone to hear about that, and we're really looking forward to the database. I think that will be a great resource for everyone. So we will next have an advanced level example of the Communication on Progress report through Yara's Sustainability Report. So to give you some background, Yara entered Wall Street Journal's list of the top 100 most sustainably managed companies in the world this past February, a new ranking that focuses on companies' ability to create long-term shareholder value. So Yara was ranked 75th and was the only Norwegian company listed out of 5,500 businesses assessed. And Yara also took a shared first place in the governance group's 2020 examination and ranking of the environmental, social, and governance reporting of the 100 largest companies on the Oslo Stock Exchange. So it's my pleasure to introduce Anette Brøto Nereng, who is Yara's Senior Sustainability Manager and Project Manager of Yara's Sustainability Report 2020. She has a Master's of Science in Accounting and Finance from University of Essex and has been with Yara for 8 years as Controller, CFO, and now Senior Sustainability Manager. And with her background in finance and passion for sustainability, she's working to facilitate Yara's leadership in measuring sustainability and driving sustainable performance. So it will be great to hear Yara's perspective on sustainability reporting and through the Communication on Progress. So Anette will give you the floor now. Thank you for joining.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to speak at this event. I will start with a short intro about Yara. Yara is the world's leading producer of ammonia, nitrates, and NPKs, providing the foundation of our farming solutions, industrial solutions, and clean ammonia. Yara has a worldwide presence with about 17,000 employees and operations in over 60 countries. In 2020, Yara reported revenues of $11.6 billion. Our ambition is focused on growing a climate-positive food future and deliver a more sustainable food value chain. To achieve our ambition, we have taken the lead in developing digital farming tools for precision farming and work closely with partners throughout the food value chain to improve the efficiency and sustainability of food production. Also, we develop and sell environmental solutions and essential products for industrial applications. Our portfolio includes emission abatement solutions for the transportation and maritime sectors. Through our focus on clean ammonia production, we aim to enable the hydrogen economy, driving a green transition of shipping, fertilizer production, and for other energy-intensive industries. I will, in this presentation, share a high-level understanding on how Yara report on sustainability and integrate sustainability in our decisions. Yara's annual reporting for 2020 consists of the Yara Integrated Report alongside the Yara Sustainability Report. Last year, the annual report represented Yara's first step in integrated reporting, and for 2020, it is Yara's first integrated report. It builds on the International Integrated Reporting Framework. And last year, the GRI report covered mainly GRI standards. And in 2020, the name of this report is changed to the Sustainability Report as we cover topics beyond the GRI standards to meet various stakeholder requirements. We have two reports as we see the value in providing certain stakeholders with additional information on our performance and governance of key sustainability topics. At Yara, we take a holistic approach to measuring success. As a response, we manage and measure our value creation along the 3 axes: people, planet, and prosperity. Yara has submitted the annual communication on progress on advanced level since 2014. The integrated report and sustainability report are both used as formats when submitting our communication on progress. The Yara integrated report outlines Yara's business model and strategy, describes how Yara creates value, and reflects how Yara manages its performance holistically. We have communicated to implement the World Economic Forum's Measuring Stakeholder Capitalism white paper in our reporting. Because of that, Yara has disclosed for the first time a set of 21 core metrics organized under the 4 pillars principles of governance, planet, people, and prosperity, making Yara a pioneer in this initiative. In addition, Yara has reported TCFD recommendations as well as EU non-financial reporting directive requirements. Yara has prepared its sustainability report in accordance with the GRI standards core option. And we have external assurance with a limited level of assurance on its reporting on the GRI reporting framework. And for the second consecutive year, requested reasonable level of assurance on the corporate greenhouse gas emission intensity indicator. Corporate purpose should create value for all stakeholders, including shareholders, is written in the Measuring Stakeholder Capitalism white paper. Yara's mission statement, responsibly feed the world and protect the planet, gives direction and meaning to the work of our employees and our strategy. Yara's vision statement, a collaborative society, a world without hunger, a planet respected, points at what we aim to achieve, lifting the ambition to a level which spurs us to partner and collaborate with other stakeholders. Yara does not have a standalone sustainability strategy. Yara has rather embedded sustainability by developing towards a sustainable strategy. Yara is committed to doing business responsibly, a commitment expressed by being a signatory of the UN Global Compact and embracing its 10 principles. In December, the World Benchmarking Alliance ranked Yara among the top 12 performers in its Food and Agriculture Baseline Assessment, a study of 350 influential food and agriculture companies and their contributions towards the SDGs. All 17 SDGs are relevant to our activities, but some are more material than others. The People, Planet and Prosperity KPIs were launched at the ESG seminar in December. Among our KPIs, we measure, for instance, our employee engagement and diversity and inclusion through surveys. We have also defined KPIs on what score we aim to achieve for 2 of the largest ESG rating providers, Sustainalytics and MSCI. Value creation is the starting point for presenting which topics we regard as material for our ability to realize our strategy, short, medium, and long term. Yara made its first materiality assessment in 2015 in a process initiated and led by Yara's head of sustainability management and supported by Harvard professor Robert Eccles. The materiality assessment has since been reviewed in internal follow-up processes. The materiality matrix was revisited as part of the 2020 risk and strategy processes. We have defined material topics as belonging to 4 main areas: megatrends, key value drivers, company capabilities and position, and license to operate. The topics boundaries are disclosed in the report scope and details chapter in the sustainability report, coupling the material topics with the GRI standards. Yara has established the integrated and holistic performance management and governance. The board's and the CEO's procedures were updated in 2020, formally including responsibility for non-financial topics of material importance. The incentive structure for the group executive board is updated. The people and planet related indicators now weight 25% each, while the prosperity indicators weight 50%. In 2020, the board's audit committee was renamed to the Board Audit and Sustainability Committee, defining the line for reporting sustainability performance. This committee also holds a responsibility for preparing sustainability-related topics for board discussions and to propose sustainability-related governance updates. Both the responsibility for financial and non-financial performance is now under the CFO area, in line with the objectives of integrated reporting. Yara's VP Sustainability Governance reports to the CFO and supervises the non-financial reporting processes. This work is closely aligned with the company performance and risk function, which oversees key parameters on strategy implementation, risk processes, and other core business processes, such as the business planning process. ESG rating is also within the CFO area now, followed up by the Sustainability Governance Department. The Sustainability Network connects corporate and operational functions all together. Lastly, core business processes are being aligned with the same holistic approach. The capital value process was updated now, strengthening the integration of non-financial perspectives. An internal carbon price shall be applied to significant projects. From our experience, banks, investors, and other stakeholders use not only one, but several ESG benchmarks when assessing a company's sustainability performance. We interact with external benchmarking initiatives. You see examples of providers on the slide in order to close information gaps and drive transparency in our reporting. It also helps us to evolve our sustainability approach and reporting. We believe that a company's ESG rating will have increasing importance as stakeholders want to objectively assess the ESG performance. Finally, some key takeaways for good sustainability reporting. Take a holistic approach to measuring success. Consider to have a corporate purpose that creates value for all stakeholders. Implement board and CEO responsibility for non-financial topics of material importance. Organize your company's sustainability performance responsibility to be under the CFO area. And finally, use the ESG benchmarks, including communication on progress, as a tool to improve by following up on your company's ESG gaps and implement the best practices. If you should have any questions, there will be a Q&A in the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anette. It's always really helpful to hear examples from other companies and see what Yara has been doing. So I think there's a lot of useful information on the slides as well. So we will be sharing that with everyone at the end so you can go back and see some of the tips and examples. So our next speaker, we're going to hear from Moramay Navarro, who's the Manager of Strategic Development at UN Global Compact. And she's going to talk about the SDG Action Platform. She's worked in the areas of anti-corruption and transparency, government affairs, and currently works in the area of sustainability metrics. And she was part of the team that supported the development of the SDG Action Manager in collaboration with B-Lab. So we're really looking forward to hearing her presentation on how this tool can be used for sustainability performance management. So thank you very much for being here, Moramay. I'll let you share now.
Great, thank you so much, Allison, and thank you overall to the local network for the invitation. Let me just put the presentation mode and I'll start. Okay, so very quickly, as Allison mentioned, I'll be providing a bit of a background on the development of the tool, and I'll also leave a couple of minutes to do a very quick demo so that you get a little bit more familiar with how you can use the tool and all the benefits and functionalities that will help you also determine a bit more in-depth performance on the SDGs. So for today, as I mentioned, just prepared a small context around the development, what the SDG Action Manager tool does, and we'll proceed to the demo and some Q&A. In terms of a quick background into the why we worked with B-Lab on developing this is, as you know, there's still a lot to be done in terms of achieving the SDGs. We're still a long way from delivering the goals set out for 2030. As you can see, there's a number of KPIs that we can look at. So for example, it's going to take 257 years to close the economic gender gap globally. In terms of plastic, there's still 8 million tons of plastic entering the ocean. And the latest global estimates indicate that over 150 million children are still under child labor. In terms of climate, absence of policies and business action, global warming is still expected to reach over 3 degrees Celsius, and we definitely need to work more on aiming to reduce to 1.5 degrees Celsius. In terms of biodiversity, there's still tons to be done. It's also under threat in many ways. 1 million plant and animal species are on the verge of extinction still, with alarming implications for human survival, and this all according to several UN reports on the matter. So in terms of what we see, and the Global Compact performs annually a progress report, as you can see, there's some understanding and awareness, commitment and action. We see that from our poll, 84% are taking action on the SDGs, but there's still an understanding that there needs to be goals aligned to societal and environmental needs. That businesses can also be more on board and work more towards aligning their strategies to the SDGs and also the 10 principles. And then there's room for designing better business models, more sustainable business models. So this is why we worked with B-Lab, who is a close organization in the sense that we all share a mission. We believe business is definitely a force for good. And as you know, we from the Global Compact side, we have a good global outreach. We bring a lot of programmatic expertise. We have the 10 principles on the SDGs as part of our mission as a UN initiative, while B-Lab on their side, many of you may be familiar with what they do in terms of the B Corp certification, but they have a very good sustainability assessment and content expertise. And they also have a very good and powerful technical platform through their B Impact Assessment and B Analytics. So we thought it would be a great combination to work together and help companies have a better understanding of how they're performing and contributing to the SDGs. So we partnered together and in the development of the SDG Action Manager. And I think I'd like to address a question already from the chat in terms of the connection between the COP and the manager tool. And just to differentiate these both things, the SDG Action Manager is more of an internal management tool for companies. So it helps internally make a self-assessment of where the company is, how it can identify which SDGs are more of a priority for the company, as Yara was also presenting in terms of identifying those priorities. And with that, use that baseline and use that understanding to improve and then be able to report through the COP, which is more of a public disclosure, report on what they did and what they've been doing in terms of the SDGs. So going back to what the tool is, it's a web-based impact management solution. The tool is also a self-assessment. It enables benchmarking, and given that it helps build that understanding, it helps you improve from year to year. We launched it in January 2020, and it's definitely free and confidential. All the information that you input there is confidential. Nothing is shared and nothing is made publicly available. And it's available right now in English, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish. In terms of the functionalities, as I mentioned, it can help you find your starting point in terms of understanding which SDGs matter most to you based on your company profile. It also allows you to get a clear view of how your operations, your supply chain, and your business model creates positive impact, and identify risk areas for each SDG. It allows you also to set goals and track improvements. So as you fill out the questionnaire, you're able to identify areas and set goals in those areas where you can improve for next time you fill out the assessment, and you can track that improvement. So as you know, we have 10 years, well, less now, but it's a tool that would ideally help you year to year to set these goals and continue progress. It also allows for collaboration across your company, so you can definitely not, fill this out by yourself, but invite colleagues to join and contribute their expertise, given that there's so many different areas. So the tool allows for different people to fill out the questionnaire at the same time. And as I mentioned, it's also a learning platform, because as you fill out the questions, you're understanding different areas where you can improve, what you can do better, and focus on SDGs that really matter to your company. Other quick things to know about the tool in terms of implementation. We got a lot of questions around, well, within a company, who should be using the tool? So we usually say it really depends on the company, but definitely the team responsible for coordinating the sustainability strategy would be the most relevant. And as I mentioned, teammates can be added to the same company profile, so that there's a joint effort here. How often should the tool be completed? Given that it's an internal management tool, companies can assess themselves once or twice a year, for example, in order to really understand and track the progress. As I mentioned, also there's the option of goal setting. So that would also prompt checking and making sure that goals have been fulfilled in order to continue that improvement. And then users should make sure to align their internal processes and timelines in order to prepare inputs and strategically use the outputs for planning and decision making, which I think this would also be relevant to filling out the communication on progress as well. In terms of outputs, as I'll show very quickly in the demo, there's a few reports that will be useful in terms of understanding the performance through the tool. So there's a SDG Performance Report where you get scores per subsections, and you'll see very clearly now in the demo, you'll understand, for example, for a particular SDG, in terms of your business model, in terms of your internal operations, your supply chain, your collective action, and the risk. So you'll see a score associated to each of those subsections, so you understand where you are. There's an improvement report which includes those scores per question, and a few additional things, such as a list of your questions that you've bookmarked. And then another key functionality is the benchmarking. So you can do that per sector and geography, comparing to your company's results to B corporations, to ordinary companies, and to CSR leading companies as well. Some other questions that we do get in terms of whether other stakeholders besides companies use the tool. So the tool actually was meant mostly for companies, but it does allow for non-business organizations to also use the tool. As you'll see when you complete the company profile, the tool actually asks for which industry and then customizes the content that the user sees to that particular sector or industry. So with that, I think I'm gonna now jump very quickly into the tool so that you get a bit of quick feel of the different functionalities. So you can access the tool by going to UN Global Compact site or just typing online SDG Action Manager UN Global Compact. You click access here. And for the purposes of time, I've already filled out here my information, so I'll go back to a mock profile that I created ahead of time. And this is for a company in Latin America, a food company. I'll access here, a small company. And as I mentioned, by going into the company profile, filling out the information about your company size, your company location, your sector, your industry, that will give information to the tool so that it can, based on that, perform a very quick materiality assessment, which is based on the World Benchmarking Alliance's market analysis, which is an analysis of industry sector versus SDGs. And with that, the tool recommends a number of SDGs that I should be filling out based on my company profile. It doesn't mean that the company cannot perform more thorough materiality analysis and then say, well, I really would like to also fill out some of these remaining SDGs. So that's also an option. But the tool just helps you already by giving some recommendations. In terms of modules, the very first module that needs to be filled out is the Sdg Baseline Module, which is based on the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact. This is more of a module to get a comprehensive baseline of the company's performance on the 4 areas of the 10 principles, and is the very starting point. Unless you fill this out, you won't be able to continue into the other modules. So let's just take a look quickly and see a little of the functionalities, some of the functionalities. So in terms of the actual functionalities that I mentioned, you are able to, for example, set a goal in a question where you would like to, work more. So, for example, I had already, by clicking on the star, you can set it as a goal. You will see the current answers that you provided versus the choices that you would like to improve on. So you can say, well, I've already got this. I really would like to just work more on this. You can set your goal for within a month, 3 months, 6 months to a year. Save it, and then it'll save so that you, in your goals over here, you can see the list of all the goals that you've set. You can see also the goals that you still have to do and that were past you. And the tool also, based on your current responses and the company profile, will also give you some recommendations of areas where you will be able to set goals as well. And it'll also show the ones that you've completed. So the ones that you've done in February, past then, it'll also show. So let's go back to the actual question, see more functionalities. This over here serves to bookmark. So if you don't know answers right away, you can bookmark the question and then go to the bookmark report and see, oh, well, these are the questions that we still need to be working on. You can click here to learn more about that particular question. So there'll be an explanation, but they also show, if you click on implementation, a number of resources and tools associated to that topic that are part of the UN Global Compact's library. So it'll provide a little bit more information into the question. And you can also provide some feedback. So if you, for example, have trouble with the question, or you think it's a grade, or it's unclear, or many other type of feedback, you can suggest it as well. So that in terms of the functionality for the questions. In terms of the other modules for the SDGs, as I mentioned, there are subsections focused on the business model, the internal operations, the supply chain, collective action, and the risk level, which is actually more, it's not really a scored section, it's more of a flag section. And we did not intend to measure this as a negative, but actually just to flag areas for the company where they are having challenges or gaps. So by clicking on the SDG Action Manager, on the reports here in this section, and if you click SDG Performance, you'll be able to see the overall scores for each module. It's important to mention here that the tool does not provide an overall score for the SDG Action Manager as a total, precisely because we don't want to outweigh negative and some to the positive. So the idea is that everyone will have an overview and understanding per area, per module. And if by clicking on the module itself, you'll see the score on each of the subsections. As I mentioned, in terms of risk level, you'll see more of a flag system rather than a scoring overall. So you'll see that it can be very high, medium, or low. In addition, another good functionality of the tool is the benchmarking. So you're able to benchmark, as I mentioned, your company against aggregate results, country, per sector, or per size range. So you'll see your score in comparison to other companies in that same location, in your same sector, or your size range. And it'll give you the benchmark as well, a little bit more in detail below. So that's also part of the functionalities. As I mentioned also, to work collaboratively with other people in your teams, by going to settings, you can click on team members, and you can add, by clicking on send invite, you can add a person who might be working on environment, and you can say, you know, Bernhard Frey, add the address and say, please help complete the section on, or the SDGs related to environment or whatnot. And then you'll be able to see a list of those people associated to the account. So that's part of the functionality as well. Another thing that I would like to mention is that it is a very thorough self-assessment. So it's a good amount of questions, but it's meant to help companies understand some of the important practices that and actions that they could be implementing in order to improve on the SDGs. And as you fill out questions, oh, I think there's some background noise. If you could please mute yourself.
Yes, if everyone can mute.
Thank you. So by filling some questions already in different sections, you'll be also, for example, if you fill this question in the baseline on tax management policies, this question also appears in the module on SDG 16. So if you fill it out here, it'll automatically fill out on SDG 16, and it'll already show up in the module. So you might be surprised when filling out, for example, the SDG 1, you'll see that there's already some questions answered in different modules, precisely because of interlinkages between the SDGs. And then another thing that I'd like to point out is that there is no module for SDG 17, which is on partnerships. It's a means of implementation. So what we did was make sure that we implement this particular module as part of the section on collective action for all of the different SDG modules, given that it's about partnerships, it's about working together and collective action. So we've implemented that throughout all the different modules. So I think I'm going to leave it there for the main functionalities and quick overview of the tool. As I mentioned, the main report that you can get is here with SDG performance, seeing your scores per module, per subsection, and then being able to use the benchmarking that you can find on the top right in order to make comparisons and then see how you are doing on the different modules. So I'll stop there, and I think I saw a lot of different questions coming in on the chat.
Yes, thank you so much, Moramay. That was really helpful to see, and we will share the link to the SDG Action Manager with everyone after the event, so you can start using it if you aren't already. And yes, I see we have a lot of questions in the chat already. And first, I will just share a Google form with everyone. So if you can fill it out, it's a form to get your input on our future Sustainability Reporting Network events. So we want to hear what future reporting topics you'd like to hear about, if there are specific speakers or companies you want to hear from. So you can do that after the event, and I've just shared the link. So I think we can start with the questions. The first one looks like it's directed for Bernhard. So the question is, will the new reporting tool allow us to download the content we upload both in Excel and Word? Do you have any more input on that? I know it's still under development, so maybe you can share.
Yes, so as per our plans now, we plan to ask companies to input the data directly into the COP questionnaire. The questions of the questionnaire, as well as the filled in responses, should be available then for download in Excel to be included in other reports. Or of the company. So if that is the question, yes, both the question as well as the inputted content will be available for download, as well as the data provided by other organizations. That is the idea, that the database makes that data available indeed for download and for the analysis by stakeholders.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think that answers the question. And so the next one is for Moramay, and it asks, could you comment on the development process of the SDG Action Manager? Who was involved, and were experts from the research and university sectors used in the development of the assessment questions?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, it was a very thorough process. We worked with B-Lab initially and the University of Boulder, Colorado, to make an initial mapping between the SDG targets and the B impact assessment owned by B-Lab, plus the SDG reporting indicators developed by the UN Global Compact and GRI, plus the SDG Compass. And it was a very thorough mapping to understand exactly how all of these sources could help us define some of the questions in the SDG Action Manager. So we started with that mapping, In addition, we had an advisor, a group of advisor organizations like GRI, the World Benchmarking Alliance, UNDP, the Impact Management Project as well, that would provide core advice to the development process, in addition to a group of more expert organizations or contributors like WWF, the World Resources Institute, and many others. It was about 90 organizations worldwide and in different areas: water, biodiversity, all topics related to the SDGs, also some universities, and the contributors, which were expert organizations. There were even companies as well. It was a public call out to people who would and organizations from different sectors, as you mentioned, universities, also academia, to support the process. And so we had about 90 to 95, plus the issue experts from the UN Global Compact as well. So we worked throughout to together to develop the questions together with them and have that support. We did then a public beta testing of the whole system and the questions, and then it was released in 2020. So it was about a year and a half worth of work together with different organizations.
Okay. And there's another question on the SDG Action Manager. Does it support split between headquarter and local offices?
I guess I don't understand fully the question, but how we're working is, given that we developed the tool with B-Lab, they have also a platform called B Analytics, where we access some of the main data, and we're able to see who has given consent to the UN Global Compact to share the data. This is only aggregate, and we do not share publicly anything from the company. And the way we work together with local is hopefully we'll be providing a bit more of insight into the number of users from a particular country. I know that there's also interest in local B chapters working together with local networks from the UN Global Compact. So I think in many countries, this is something that's happening in terms of being able to work and bring those communities together to work more closely. And so in that sense, I think the idea is to promote and use the tool in a setting where you can understand the use as being an internal management tool by using the SDG Action Manager, being able to build a baseline understanding of the SDGs, working together also with our local networks, and in some regions with B local chapters, and then using the SDG Action Manager as a baseline to then also be able to fill out what would be the new communication on progress. So I think there was also a question in the chat about that. A number of questions in the COP, in the new COP, will be coming from the SDG Action Manager. So that's the relation. So whoever fills out the SDG Action Manager will also be seeing questions and using that information to fill out the COP. And in that way, we're also hoping to reduce a little bit of the burden between filling out different questionnaires and assessments. But there definitely is a connection between both tools.
Okay, that's perfect. And I think we have one more question about the SDG Action Manager, which is, do you know how many companies in Norway are actively using it?
I do have the information, but not right here with me. I can take a look at the B Analytics information. That's a homework for me.
Okay, perfect. We can maybe share that with everyone after.
Yes, I will give the information and you can share.
Okay, perfect. And we have a question for Yara. You're reporting at an advanced level for the communication on progress. So are there areas that now that you're at an advanced level, you're still looking to advance more in future reporting?
Yes, we absolutely see areas to improve. So I think, if we just take overall, then I think one really important area as well is regarding transparency and reliability. It was really interesting to see Bernhard's slide about challenges with reporting and how to avoid greenwashing, and we are really it's really a key to have transparency in the reporting. And in the report, we, for instance, show if we have had any fines related to environmental breaches, or for instance, if any stakeholders had any concerns during the year. So we absolutely try to be as transparent as possible. But now as we now have moved this performance, sustainability performance area under CFO function, then we are really developing the transparency, because we see we are broadening the number of measures, but we also want to continue improving the quality of the measures. So that's one maybe broader area.
Okay, thank you. And I see we have one last question here. Is the UN Global Compact's ambition that all businesses use the tool, which is I think the SDG Action Manager, both within and outside of UN Global Compact? So I guess is the ambition that all companies should use it regardless of whether they are members or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I mentioned, we're still a long way from achieving the SDGs. So I think this is a very helpful tool. Companies sometimes have a hard time understanding where to start. And I think that this tool provides that starting point, so that you can, build a better understanding, build a baseline, and with that, be able to move on in terms of implementing actions and making sure that then you report, and then here's where the communication on progress comes in order to be able to then just publicly disclose and say, this is what we have been able to contribute. There's one clarification too here, which is worth mentioning. We don't ask in the SDG Action Manager for the information to be verified. And so obviously that's why it's an internal management tool, and we hope companies are being very honest in terms of providing information that will be very helpful to them in understanding and building that baseline. So yeah, we definitely hope that many companies are using the tool. That's also why it's free and publicly available.
Yes, that's great that it's accessible for everyone. And I can see we have one more question. Can companies below 10 employees also use the tool?
Yes, it's challenging, but yes, the questionnaire also, the self-assessment in the SDG Action Manager, given that it asks for the size of a company, it will automatically update the questions and reduce the number of questions for SMEs and smaller companies.
Okay, that's great. I don't think we have any more questions. It looks like that was everything. So thank you so much for coming today to Moramay, Bernhard, and Anette. It was really great to hear from all of you. And I think the information and slides and even the recording will be very helpful for everyone. And so we're going to have some closing remarks from Knut Moestua, who is our Chief Operating Officer at UN Global Compact Norway, before we close.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? First of all, thank you to everyone who's showed up. Special thanks to our speakers today, Bernhard, Anette, and Moramay. Very helpful presentations. I want to take a few moments just emphasizing something. Please, the participants of this network or event, please reply to our questionnaire. That will help us in the future to tailor the content for your needs. We need to produce content that is relevant for you, so that would be very helpful for us if you could do that. Also, many of you have received an email from headquarters around our science-based targets initiative. We are launching now. It will start in August, but we're launching the campaign now on business ambition for 1.5 program. The program is one of the most ambitious programs we have on setting science-based targets. It is in collaboration with, of course, the other participants of the Science-Based Targets Initiative, WWF. It's with the other tracks there, and it will give you and it will teach you how to set science-based targets by 2050. It will also help you interact with shareholders, and it has a program that will go from SMBs, they will have a own SMB track, to companies depending on where you are in the timeline of setting science-based targets. So we hope all of you will at least sign on to that program or inquire with us or set up calls with us on that program. Please sign up and also please reply to our questionnaire. So that's all I had to say for today. Thank you so much for showing up. Most people stayed all the way also. That's good for a 1.5-hour meeting. So that's it. Thank you for me.
Thank you so much. And thank you again to the speakers. It was really helpful. We will send out the recording and slides to everyone. So if you have any questions, please just let us know there, and hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you so much.